Hi, this is Don McAllister and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. With the release of iOS 16 for the iPhone this week, it's time to take a look at some of the major new features of Apple's flagship operating system. iPad OS 16 and Ventura will both be launched later on in the year, but we'll follow up over the next few months with a deeper look at some of the new features in iOS 16. As this is being recorded a few days before the official release of iOS 16, I'll be using the last released candidate, but the feature set should be identical to the final released version. So let's take a look, and let's start with the completely revamped lock screen. So this is the home screen on my iPhone XS Max, which doesn't have support for the always-on display that's been announced for the new iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, of course, if you do have an existing iPhone, when you switch off your iPhone, you will get a black screen. But on the newer iPhones, you will get an always-on display. But this is the major reason why Apple have gone to the trouble of changing the lock screen to make it much more customizable. Now, interestingly, I'm actually recording this screencast using QuickTime. If I return to the lock screen, right, so this is the new lock screen. But if I just leave it for a few seconds, whilst the actual phone itself has gone black, the actual recording has picked up the always-on display. So this is what you will see if you have one of the later iPhone 14 Pros or Pro Maxes. This is the static display, the always-on display. But let me just tap the screen to bring it back to life. So let's go ahead and start our customization. If I tap and hold on the screen, you'll see we get this new display. Now, I only have a single lock screen at the moment, and you can't customize the default lock screen. But if I just tap on the customize button, we can go ahead to add a new wallpaper to make edits, add widgets, and switch between lock screens. So if I just tap add new. Now, across the top are some shortcuts to panels that are featured below. So photos, photo shuffle, emoji, weather, astronomy, and color. Or you can scroll down and have a look at these panels. Some featured wallpapers and some suggested photos. There is a photo shuffle option so that we can get a set of photos that shuffle as you use your phone throughout the day. Weather and astronomy, emoji, collections, color, etc. So let's go ahead and just pick one of these. Let's go ahead and select the first featured one, which is my astronomy. So if I just tap the astronomy wallpaper, we now have this new display. There are several images here. If I swipe across, you'll see there are several different images I can use on my lock screen. But let's go back to the first one, and I'll come back to customize some of the other options in a second. But if I just tap in the top right corner and say add, now we do get the option to set as a wallpaper pair, so that will allow us to have both the lock screen and also your home screen using similar wallpaper. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll say set as wallpaper pair. And then if I just tap the screen once, that takes us back into the new lock screen. And then swipe up and back into my iPhone home screen. Let me just close it to bring the lock screen back up again. Right, let's customize our widgets. So if I tap and hold again on the lock screen, we go back to the customize screen. If I tap on the customize button at the bottom, we now have access to these various panels, so I can change the widgets within the panel. Now at the top we've got the date, and we've also got the time below that, and below that we have these are stock market prices. If I tap onto the panel containing the stock market prices, you'll see I can now remove these. So on this left-hand panel, I just tap the minus button and that disappears. If I tap the remaining minus button, that clears our widgets. Now we have an add widgets button, but we can also see the widgets panel. So let's say I wanted to put our calendar in here. So I select that. On the right-hand side, let's say I wanted the time. I'll just tap that, and we've got space for another one. So let's go ahead and tap the air quality one. Okay, so there are our widgets. We have some additional ones down here as well for calendar, batteries, clock, fitness, home, etc. But let's just get rid of that for now. And let's say done. We'll set as wallpaper pair again, and then just tap on the screen to finish our customization. So we'll just leave that a second for the always-on display to kick in. There it goes. So now with a supported iPhone, you can see all your widgets, all your information on the always-on display. Okay, let's just tap the screen to wake the phone back up again. Now to change our lock screen, all I do basically is just tap and hold and swipe across, tap again, and that takes me to a new lock screen. If I want to return to my other lock screen, again, tap and hold, swipe, and tap. Let's add a third lock screen. So if I go ahead, tap and hold, we can either hit the plus at the bottom or I can swipe across and hit this plus. Let's use some of the shortcuts across the top. So photo shuffle. If I select the photo shuffle icon, you'll see here that it will create a dynamic set of photos that shuffle as you use your phone throughout the day. Now, the first time that you do this, you might get a message saying that the iPhone needs to analyze your photo library. I installed this a day or two ago, so it's actually been through already, and on the device itself created a set of photos that it thinks are appropriate. So it's created two categories, nature and cities. Now I've got them both switched on. You can deselect one or the other if you want. And below that is shuffle frequency. Currently set to hourly. Let's change that to on lock. Now down at the bottom, I can just go ahead and use the featured photos or select the photos manually. I'm going to go ahead and say use featured photos. So that is a waterfall in Iceland. Now, again, I can go ahead and customize this. Let's tap on the panel at the top, which has got the date and date. And let's change that for our reminders, say. Let's tap on the reminders widget, and that's now in the top panel. A bit difficult to see because of the sky, but that will change as we change the photos. Let's close the widget panel down. Now, I've just inserted this section, so the time is slightly different. If you do have an issue with the legibility of the text or graphics on screen, you can actually go in and change the color. And the way to do that would be to tap the time. So you can change the different fonts, but down here at the bottom, you have the option to change the color as well. So if you wanted to change it to any color to make it more legible, you can do. But I will come out of here and put it back to as it was, and back to the standard font. Now I can swipe across to look at some additional filters, but I'm going to leave it to natural. But just by tapping the screen, I can actually tap to preview some of the photos that will be displayed. Let's add some more widgets into the third panel. So tap add widgets. Let's go with something from the battery section. So there are two sizes of widgets. Let's go with the wider one first. I'll just tap that to select it. And then let's also add the additional one in, although you wouldn't normally use both. As you can see, we just have a single space left. So what I can do now, let's go and pick something else. Let's go into stocks. Now, you can see here that, in fact, it's quite difficult to see, but there are two different types of widgets. If I swipe across, there's symbols, which is a single unit, and a double unit. If I swipe back again, you'll see we have this watch list. But that one is too big, so let's go ahead and go for something else. Let's try the weather widget. The indicators at the bottom show there are 8 different widgets, so conditions, UV index, sunrise and sunset, moon, etc. But I'm just going to go back and settle on temperature. We'll add that in. And then close down the widget panels. Now, because I did select both categories of cities and nature, if I want to change that, I can tap on the icon down at the bottom. Let's take cities off. So we just have nature. And then if I want to change the frequency, I can just tap on the icon with the 3 dots in the bottom right. Change it back to daily, hourly, on lock, or on tap. Let's put it to on tap, actually. Let's go ahead and say add in the top corner. Set as wallpaper pair. I'll just tap the screen. So now with each tap of the screen, I get a new nature photo. Now let's just swipe up to go to our home screen. And you actually see it's taken the existing photo from our lock screen and blurred it to use as a background. Let's take a look at some of the other features for the lock screen. In fact, to do this, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to change this particular photo. To do that, I'm going to go to Customize, find a suitable photo. Let's say that one, and then change it to daily, and we'll say done. And we'll set the wallpaper pair, just so that the screen doesn't change on me while I'm recording this screencast. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to send a message from another machine, so let me just go ahead and do that. And that message appears at the bottom of the screen. If you have the latest iPhone 14 Pro or iPhone 14 Pro Max, you will receive your notifications in the new dynamic island at the top of the screen. But for the rest of us, we'll get our notifications down at the bottom. Let me go ahead and send a second message. So there's my second message, not very original, but this is what's called a stacked view. I can see my other notifications like this. If I want it to be a list view, what I have to do is to go into notifications, and then change it to list view. Now if I go back to my lock screen, send another message, and a second message. There we go, that's now in list view. And again, swipe up to see the rest of my notifications. Another thing we can do from the lock screen, in fact, let's go into my home screen. We'll go into music and we'll play some music. So you can see here, this is Bad is Bad by Huey Lewis and the News. You probably won't hear this actually because I've muted the sound. But if I now go into my lock screen, okay, we get the now playing down here at the bottom. If I tap the album art, we get a full screen album art as well. So a much nicer way of visualizing and also controlling your music from the lock screen. We're going to move away from lock screens now, although not completely away from lock screens because they are still included in this next section. But let's take a look at focus modes. Now, focus was introduced in iOS 15, and it's a way to customize your iPhone to limit distractions or to give you extra information or access to different apps, depending on the particular mode that you're in at the time. So let's take a quick look at how focus modes have been expanded in iOS 16. Looking at the setting up of modes first, if we go into our settings icon, and then under settings there is a focus option. And you'll see here there are some focus modes already set up. Do not disturb, personal, reading, sleep, and work. As before, you can create a new focus. So we'll hit the plus button. Let's say we wanted a fitness focus mode. So we can now customize this. Right, so as before, you can set up who you want notifications from. So you can either silence notifications from individual people or allow notifications from people. So we'll just add the people from our contacts list. I'll leave that as is. Allow calls from everybody, or tap on here and just select various groups, and then allow repeated calls. So if someone does make a second call within 3 minutes, they will not be silenced. Then apps, so notifications from whichever apps you either want or don't want, you can set that up in here. You can override the settings for time-sensitive notifications, for instance, from your calendar, etc. But we'll leave that on. Some options to show silence notifications on your lock screen instead of notification center, and also to dim the lock screen when the focus is on. And then the ability to customize screens. Now you can assign a lock screen and also a home screen for this particular focus mode, and for any focus mode, in fact. So if we go to the lock screen first, now we can create a new lock screen. We can do that directly from the gallery, which is as we saw before. Or if I've already set up some lock screens, I can assign that to this particular focus mode. So let's say for fitness, I didn't really want any widget or anything. I just want a plain lock screen. I could select that. We'll say done. And then also options for your home screen. Now, quite neat, it will actually create a new page for you. So this is to do with fitness. So it's got health and the fitness icon and a widget. Let's go with that middle page here. I can go in and edit the apps, but I'm just going to accept the defaults. Okay, so that's our new lock screen and our new home page for when I'm in fitness focus mode. I can switch it on automatically. Obviously, when you start a workout, is probably a good idea to go into fitness mode. And then this is new as well, focus filters. Now these help you remove distractions when the focus is on, and you can selectively do things such as just specify certain calendars or certain people are allowed to send you messages. So let's go into here and say add filter. So for instance, calendar. So if I wanted to choose particular calendars that I only want to see when I'm in this mode, I mean, you wouldn't really be checking your calendar when you're doing a fitness mode, I suppose. So not a good example, but you can select calendars. You can select inboxes. Now, I only have my iCloud email inbox on this particular iPhone. But say you're using your iPhone for both work and also for personal use, and you have different inboxes. If it was a work-related focus mode, you might want to select your work inbox. If it's a personal one, select your personal inbox. Let's come back out a level. We've got messages, so you can filter by the people list. Now, these are the people that you've allowed notifications from. Just see those messages. Back out, and also you can set up specific tab groups in Safari to be used during this particular focus. And then options for the appearance, set to dark or light, and then low power mode, switch on or off. But we'll leave that as is. We'll say cancel to that, and it's ready to go. So to use a focus, obviously, we come out of here. I'll go into Control Center, and then I'll go to here and set fitness. Right, and you probably saw in the background something change. That's because now this is our new home page. And if I go into the lock screen, we get just the plain generic lock screen with no widgets. And you'll notice that the fitness mode or the fitness focus mode is shown down at the bottom. So back into Control Center to switch off fitness focus mode. If we come back out of here, you'll see we're back to our standard home page. And we should be, back to our default lock screen. Let me go into customize mode by pressing and holding on the lock screen again. Now, there is another way to assign focus modes to lock screens, and that's when you go in and customize them. So let's go ahead and create a new one. Let's go with, what should we do that we haven't done up to now? Just a standard color. So again, we've got various options here for different tones. We'll just leave that as solid. We'll say add. We'll set a wallpaper pair. And now if I tap on this button at the bottom, which is focus, I can link a focus to this particular lock screen. So let's say I wanted this to be my work one. You can also, if I go back into here, you can go into focus settings from here as well. I can go into work and change this as I might. Let's go ahead and create a new page. I'll use its selected page. We'll say add. That's the home page. Okay, so now I go back to here, swipe down, select my work focus. So I get the new background with the applications that it's selected for me. But also now if I go into my lock screen, I get the new lock screen that I've just created. Apple have made some simple yet well overdue changes to the Mail application, all to make your life easier. Let's go into Mail and let's go into our inbox. I've deleted all the mail that I had here previously. They've updated the search functionality. So if I go into search, I'm actually going to use an external keyboard for my typing on this. So if I search for Costco, say, we get the top hits. Now, the iPhone is still indexing, so it will probably be better after a few days once it's settled down. But I get my top hits of emails. I also get some additional suggestions down here as well. So that has been improved. Biggest improvement for me is something that should have done long ago, and that's when you try to, or you forget to add an attachment or forget to include a recipient in an email, it will now prompt you. So if I go ahead and tap the new mail item, let's set this to Fred Flintstone. Subject, and then in the body of the text, hi Fred, here is the proposal attached as promised. Now if I hit send, now you need to be aware that it will only parse the body of the text, and also it is limited to just English variants at the moment. But as you can see, we get this message, did you mean to add an attachment? And I can actually at this point either send anyway, or I can hit cancel, and I can now add the attachment and send it. So that's quite a neat feature. There is another option as well. Let me go ahead and send this anyway. So if I just tap on here and say send anyway, you'll see at the bottom it says undo send. So you have 20 seconds to retrieve that. I can just tap on undo send and it will retrieve it from the outbox and allow me to cancel it or to change it. But I'm going to go ahead and say cancel. Another feature that has now come to Apple Mail on iPhone is the ability to send your email off at a later time. Now, I know pretty much every other email client does this, but it's nice to see it come to Apple at last. To do this, basically, I've just addressed another email to Fred Flintstone, and if I long press on the send button, you'll see I can send now, send 9 p.m. tonight, 8 a.m. tomorrow, or 8 a.m. on Monday. Or if I tap send later, I can specify a day and a time. It looks like you can only do it sort of at least 30 minutes later. So don't try and send it within the next 30 minutes. But let's just go ahead and say cancel that one there. I'll just do that again. And I will send at 9 p.m. tonight. So this is stored on device. So the device needs a network connection then to ensure delivery. And we'll say OK. If you want to get that back or you want to edit it before it goes, you'll see there is now a new box here, send later, showing us when the email is due to be sent off. And finally, for now in Mail is the ability to be reminded about an email. So for instance, I've just sent this one across. This email needs a response by tomorrow. If I open it up, then tap on the arrow in the footer, you'll see there is a new option now to remind me. So if I tap on remind me in 1 hour, tonight, tomorrow, or remind me later to set a date at a time. If I just say remind me in an hour and then go back to my inbox. So there is a little clock you can see there and the today at 5:05. This really only works very well if you've got a crowded inbox. But if that was pushed down the queue in my inbox at 5:05, it would actually be brought back to the top with a label saying remind me. That would enable me to see that email and respond to it. Now, there are one or two other features which don't appear to be working in the release candidate. At least there is a follow-up function, but hopefully when the full version does come out, we'll be able to see that and demonstrate that to you as well. Now, one of the applications that have had a major overhaul is the Home application. So if you have a number of home automation devices within your home, the new application makes it so much easier to both identify and visualize what's going on within the home, but also to control them as well. So let's take a look at the application. The first is this brand new My House view, and basically you can see all your devices in a single view. So at the top we have a number of different categories. Again, this is new. We have a number of scenes, which you can scroll across, and the scenes basically allow you to control groups of devices with a single button press or a Siri command. And then below that we have the various rooms with each device specified, and you'll see the active devices easily recognizable. They're highlighted with some different changes to the styles of the tiles, but really very, very easy to control all your devices. The new category buttons are quite neat in that they group together everything by function. So if I tap on climate, I can see my scenes that have access to roof blinds and window blinds. I've got the individual devices within both the garden room and, for instance, here in the hallway. This is a Nest thermostat. I can just tap on there and go straight to the thermostat to control it. We'll just come back out of there. So back up to the categories, I can see all the lights in the house. Again, related scenes and the individual lights within each room. Under security, we have 2 Velux windows. Now these are here because they are electronically operated and do give access to the house, so they do fall under the remit of security. And then finally, speakers and TVs. TV, a couple of HomePods, a Move speaker, Sonos Move speaker, and my Apple TV as well. But if we just go back to the home view, very, very useful. I'm quite enjoying using the Home app on the new version of iOS. There's also the automation as before. So if you want to set up some predefined sequences, so control a number of devices based on either the time of day or the sunrise or sunset, people leaving or coming into the house, you can do that quite simply through the automation option. And then the final tab is Discover, just gives you a bit more information about how to get started with home automation. In addition, Apple have improved widget support, and we now have home-related widgets on the lock screen. So if I just go back to the lock screen, press and hold the lock screen to go into Customize, press the Customize button. We'll go ahead and we'll actually remove these 2 widgets here, and then we'll scroll down to Home. So we've got a summary of your entire home. We have climate summary, climate sensor. security alerts, and a security accessory. So you can see the status of one security accessory, and then a single control to switch all your lights on or off. I'm going to go ahead and go with our summary. It's the middle of the day, so all the lights are off at the moment. I can see the temperature in the house and also the relative humidity as well. So if we come out of here, and I would imagine if we say done, oops, I missed the done button, so it's changed the photo, but that's better. We'll set our wallpaper pair again, and this time if I go back to here, tap on the widget, it will take us straight to the home application. I'm going to finish off this initial overview of some of the major features of iOS 16 with a look at photos. Now, one of the big features in Photos that I've been looking forward to is the ability to create shared photo libraries that you can share with family and friends. Unfortunately, that's not available at the first release of iOS 16. That's going to come later on in the year or early next year. But in the meantime, there are some extra features which are worth taking a look at, some minor features. So let's go into the Photos app. The first one is the inclusion of a brand new album, which is a duplicate album. So if we go to Albums, and then if we scroll down to Media Types and then Utilities, you'll see there is a duplicate album. And basically, iOS 16 has gone on and examined your library and determined there are some duplicates in there. So I've got 9 duplicates. So as you can see here, some photos of the Northern Lights and some logos as well. And now what you can do with these is you can merge them, and that will just leave you one copy of the duplicate. Some of the Iceland photos, I'm going to merge those other ones. And then I've got 3 of the same logo here in my library. So I'm going to merge 3 items. Right, and all my duplicates are now cleaned up. So that's the duplicate albums. While we're here as well, under Utilities, you'll see now that your hidden albums and your recent deleted are both protected by Face ID. So you see they're locked by default. So to open them up, if I go to, for instance, recently deleted, it uses Face ID and it shows you those duplicates that have been deleted from the other library. And then I can come out of here. And the only other thing I wanted to show you, I mean, there are other things about your People album now gets sorted alphabetically and you can restart a video in Memories. But the only other thing I wanted to show you is the editing features. If I go to the library and I open this one, this is a screenshot. I'll just make a really obvious edit to show you how this works. But if I go into Edit, let's go into the brightness, or rather the exposure. Let's really crank up the exposure to 100. And what I can do now, we'll say Done. I can copy the edit and I can go to another photo, and from here I can paste the edit. So any edits that I made on that previous photo, I can now copy and paste onto another photo, which is great if you've got a large number of photos that all need the same tweaks. You can now copy and paste the edits between them. Now, it's also possible to both undo and redo multiple edit steps in your photos as well, but we'll leave that for now. I'll come out of here. Actually, to get these back as they were, I'm just going to say Edit and Revert to Original. And the same as the other one. Edit, Revert, Revert to Original. Okay, that's probably it for this overview. We've got some of the shows lined up, looking at extra features in Messages. There's things to look at in Safari. Notes has had a few minor changes. But we'll have a look at some of these other things in future shows over the next month or two. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time.